Here's a question for you. Have you ever stood in the middle of a Tesco aisle, properly looked at the basic bag of rice you're about to lob into your trolley, and thought, is this thing actually safe to feed my kids tonight? I'm not talking about some niche organic quinoa from Planet Organic. I mean just normal long grain rice from Asda. The white stuff in the see-through bag that looks like the most boring, predictable ingredient in your entire kitchen. Right. Well, you need to freeze right there, because what I'm about to tell you is going to change how you look at that 79p bag of rice forever. The problem isn't with rice, it's with what's in it that nobody is telling you about. By the end of this video, you won't just know which brands are essentially taking you for a ride. You're going to be a bona fide rice expert. You'll find out why the healthy brown rice you're buying might be the exact opposite. I'll show you exactly which brands to avoid on your local UK shelves. Naming names, not just general terms. We'll break down the specific chemical that is sitting in every single grain you cook. And, crucially, I'll give you 5 rock-solid rules on what you should be buying instead. In fact, the most crucial and easiest piece of advice, something that can instantly cut down the risks by more than half, is something the entire industry is desperate for you never to find out. Now, before I start slagging off individual supermarket packets, we need to understand the basic mechanics here. Rice is just a grain, right? It grows in a field, gets harvested, dried, put in a bag. Simple. And yes, when it's good, it's arguably the most important staple food on the planet. But the modern rice supply chain, including the one that ends up in a UK corner shop, is built on a foundation of secrecy. There are 2 major issues the bag in your pantry never mentions. The first and most significant is contamination. This isn't about some factory manager dropping a nut and bolt into the packer. It's systematic. Because rice is grown in flooded fields, its root system acts like a hyper-efficient sponge. It absorbs everything from the soil and water much more readily than any other grain. It's particularly effective at pulling up heavy metals, specifically one called inorganic arsenic. And here's the zinger. This stuff is a known human carcinogen. We're not talking maybe or potential. It's an established Group 1 carcinogen, right up there with asbestos and tobacco. And the amount of this carcinogen sitting in your bag depends entirely on one single factor, where that rice was grown. But of course, almost no bag in Tesco or Sainsbury's actually tells you the specific region. The second issue is just straightforward, old-school fraud. Premium aromatic rice, like Basmati and Jasmine, commands a proper premium price. It costs a lot more than generic long grain, and that massive price difference has made it one of the most adulterated foods in the entire world. It's routinely cut with cheaper, lower quality, and often much higher arsenic varieties that your eye cannot tell apart. Think about it. You're paying top whack for what you think is authentic, safe rice, and the factory has blended in a third of cheap, high-metal substitute, and nobody is checking. It's like buying a high-end whiskey that's been watered down with some supermarket blend, only with more potential cancer. So, this video isn't about panicking. It's about opening your eyes to the invisible truth of the cleanest-looking aisle in the supermarket. We've all been deceived by a slick industry that runs on opacity, betting that you'll never ask where that generic grown in the EU rice actually came from. And you're not a fool for trusting them, you're just the latest victim in a massive corporate deception. But after today, you're an ally with the knowledge to make it stop. Let's get straight into the belly of the beast. We are starting with the cheapest stuff on the shelf and working our way up to the premium brands that you think you can trust. First up, we need to talk about supermarket own brand budget rice, specifically what you find at the rock bottom price tier in places like Asda, Tesco, and Morrison's. Take Asda's Just Essentials or Tesco Stockwell long grain rice. These packets cost pennies per serving, and a massive supermarket chain like Tesco, which cleared billions in profit recently, uses this cheap rice as a foot in the door to get you through the style. The problem with budget own brand rice is that the dirt cheap price is bound tightly to a single variable: complete opacity regarding where that grain was pulled out of the mud. Independent food safety testing by institutions like the University of Sheffield has consistently shown that when brands do not disclose the specific origin, they are sourcing commodity streams from high arsenic regions. Historically, a massive amount of the UK's cheapest bulk long grain imports has been commodity rice mixed from massive international markets where flooded fields are treated with industrial fertilizers or sit on legacy agricultural land heavily contaminated with heavy metals. For a multi-billion-pound corporation with the global leverage to dictate terms to suppliers, choosing to package anonymous commodity rice with zero transparency on heavy metal levels leaves the British consumer totally blind. You think you're being a savvy shopper, saving a few quid on your weekly shop, but the low price is a direct trade-off for a complete lack of tracking. The zinger here is simple. You aren't just buying cheap food, you are buying a ticket to a heavy metal lottery. Moving up the ladder slightly, we hit the standard supermarket own brand lines. Your standard Tesco long grain, Sainsbury's Hub, or Morrison Savor. These are the mid-tier bags that sit proudly at eye level. The model here is identical across the entire grocery sector. These products are sourced and packed by massive contract suppliers whose names never appear anywhere on the plastic. One month, the contract comes from an Italian supplier. The next month, it's an anonymous bulk batch from South America. And the label just changes to a vague packed in the UK using non-UK rice. Because the source can change from one production run to the next without a single change to the price or the front packaging. You are playing Russian roulette with your toxic load. A bag you bought in January might be perfectly clean, while the one you buy in March could be absolutely loaded with inorganic arsenic. Professor Manoj Menon, a soil scientist who has led major studies into UK retail rice, has highlighted that consumer exposure is dictated entirely by these origin shifts that are masked by corporate labeling. When you buy these anonymous commodity streams, you are buying blind from a supply chain optimized for margin, not your family's health. It's corporate cost-cutting dressed up as household convenience. Next up is a brand that might actually shock you because it wears a massive badge of health: supermarket organic brown rice. You see it in Waitrose, Sainsbury's, and M&S. People buy organic because they think they're doing the right thing, dodging pesticides and chemicals. But here is the massive industry loophole that catches everyone out: the brown rice surprise. Brown rice is a whole grain, meaning the outer bran and germ layer are left intact. That is exactly where all the fiber and nutrients live, which is why nutritionists love it. But guess what else concentrates in that exact outer bran layer? Inorganic arsenic. Testing published in the Journal of Environmental Sciences showed that brown rice can contain up to 80% more inorganic arsenic than white rice from the exact same field, because when you mill white rice, you polish away the arsenic-heavy skin. To make matters harsher, a comprehensive UK study analyzing 55 rice types found that organically grown rice actually contains significantly higher concentrations of inorganic arsenic than non-organic equivalents. Why? Because some organic fertilizers can alter soil chemistry in a way that makes the arsenic far more soluble, allowing the flooded roots to suck it up like a milkshake. You are standing in Waitrose paying double the price for an organic whole grain product, thinking you're a wellness guru while delivering a concentrated dose of a Class 1 carcinogen straight to your body. If you already feel like checking your own cupboard right now, hit that subscribe button because the premium brands are even more shocking. The organic health halo isn't just a marketing trick here, it's a literal shield for heavy metals. Food Navigator now we have to address the king of convenience: microwave rice pouches. Think Uncle Ben's, now called Ben's Original, and the endless sea of supermarket copycats like Aldi's Worldwide Foods or Lidl's Golden Sun pouches. These are the holy grail for busy people. 2 minutes in the microwave and you've got perfect palau or egg-fried rice. But let's look at the systemic mechanics of what you're actually eating. This stuff is ultra-processed. To make it cook in 120 seconds, the rice has to be pre-cooked, dried, and then saturated in processing oils and emulsifiers so it doesn't turn into a solid brick of starch inside the plastic bag. If you look at the ingredients of a seasoned pouch, it's a horror show of sodium, natural flavorings, and yeast extracts. A single pouch can hit nearly half of your recommended daily salt allowance. For an older adult managing blood pressure, swapping a clean grain for a sodium bomb pouch is a massive medical misstep. More than that, the intense heat and pressure processing hollows out whatever microscopic level of nutrition survived the milling process in the first place. You are paying up to 5 times more per kilogram compared to a standard raw bag of rice, and what are you getting for that premium? A nutritionally dead, salt-laden grain wrapped in hot plastic with zero origin transparency. It's the ultimate lazy tax, and your health is paying the bill. Finally, we have reached the pinnacle of the British rice aisle. The premium Basmati trade, dominated by brands like Tilda. Tilda is an absolute institution in the UK. It represents the gold standard of aromatic long-grain rice. People trust it implicitly for their Sunday curries. But the premium price of Basmati has turned the entire global category into a playground for international food fraud. The UK Food Standards Agency previously ran DNA fingerprinting tests on retail Basmati samples across the country and discovered that nearly 1 in 3 bags contained significant amounts of non-Basmati rice. The fraud is incredibly lucrative and nearly impossible for a consumer to spot. Shady exporters and packers take genuine, expensive Himalayan basmati and cut it with cheap, stubby, long-grain crossbreeds that look identical to the naked eye. They even spray the batches with artificial aromatic compounds to mimic that distinct popcorn-like basmati smell. When you buy a massive 10 kilograms bag of premium rice, thinking you're getting pure, clean heritage grains, you are frequently being fleeced by middlemen blending in low-grade commodity grain that carries a completely unknown heavy metal profile. Tilda and Major Millers do monitor their supplies, but the global supply chain is a multi-headed beast. You pay a premium for purity, but without rigorous, lot-by-lot published DNA and contaminant data, that premium is nothing more than a donation to a corporate balance sheet. The ultimate irony of the UK rice aisle is that the most expensive trusted bag on your shelf might just be a high-priced masquerade. And now, what it was worth watching all the way through for. We are finally leaving the swamp of heavy metals and corporate cutting behind, and moving into the good stuff. The relief here is that you do not have to give up rice entirely. You just need to know which specific packets on the British shelves are actually playing by the rules and delivering a verifiably clean grain. Let's look at the options that are fully available right now across the UK, ranging from affordable mainstream choices to the more premium, pristine packets. First up on our recommended list is California-grown Calrose or sushi rice, which you can regularly find in major UK supermarkets like Sainsbury's, Tesco, and through online grocers like Ocado. While the American South has a grim agricultural history of arsenic pesticides, the Sacramento Valley in California has a completely different geological and industrial past. Testing from global consumer groups and food laboratories consistently shows that rice labeled specifically as California-grown averages a massive 65% less heavy metal content than the cheap commodity stuff. When you buy brands like Nishiki or own brand premium sushi rice that clearly states California as its sole origin on the back of the packet, you are buying into a fundamentally cleaner growing region. In practice, this rice has a beautiful plump texture and a clean, neutral taste that blows generic long grain out of the water. Price-wise, it is a bit more expensive than the 79p budget bags, usually working out to around 30 to 40 pence per serving, but that slight markup is completely justified because you are explicitly paying for geological safety. The downside? It is a sticky medium grain, so it won't work if you are trying to make a fluffy biryani, but for everyday family meals, it is a rock-solid, accessible shield against toxic accumulation. Next, we need to talk about authentic, certified Thai jasmine rice. When you are browsing the world food aisles in Asda, Morrison's, or local Asian supermarkets, you want to look for bags that carry the official Thai Home Mali government seal. Brands like Royal Umbrella or Dragonfly are widely distributed across the UK and are the real deal. Authentic jasmine rice grown in the traditional northeastern wetlands of Thailand tests roughly 50% lower for inorganic arsenic than Western commodity streams. The Thai government strictly regulates the Hum Mali certification, meaning the rice must be a single, unadulterated variety grown in specific provinces under strict environmental controls. When you cook this, the difference is immediate. The natural floral aroma fills the kitchen, and the grains have a perfectly tender, silky texture. It costs a bit more, roughly 45 pence a portion, but every penny goes toward a verified supply chain that hasn't been cut with cheap rubbish by a middleman in a dusty warehouse. Just be aware that because it is an aromatic rice, it absorbs flavors quickly, so you need to rinse it thoroughly to keep that clean, premium profile for those who love their curries and want absolute certainty regarding their basmati. You need to look for brands that actively combat global food fraud through rigorous source verification. While a lot of basmati in the UK is highly suspect, specialized premium brands like Layla or East End, which source directly from the specific, ancient glacial-fed fields at the foot of the Himalayas in Pakistan and India, offer a much safer bet. True heritage basmati from these regions naturally carries a lower arsenic profile due to the unique soil chemistry and clean water sources. More importantly, these brands work closely with UK trading standards and use batch testing to ensure the grain is 100% pure basmati, not some cheap crossbreed sprayed with fake perfume. The texture of true basmati is legendary. The grains elongate to twice their size when cooked and stay completely separate and fluffy. It sits at a premium price tier, often working out to around 50 pence per serving when bought in larger bags, but it guarantees that you are actually eating the culinary masterpiece you paid for. The single downside to watch out for is that certain Indian varieties can occasionally show trace levels of cadmium, so keeping your brands varied is still a smart move if you want the ultimate golden standard of safety and transparency where you don't have to guess a single thing. You need to look for boutique organic brands available in Waitrose or health stores, such as Clear Spring or King Soba, which offer alternative grains and specialized single-origin rice. Clear Spring, for example, specializes in organic Japanese grains and completely clean sourcing pathways. They don't just put a pretty picture on the front. They track their fields with absolute precision and ensure their grains are free from heavy metal industrial runoff. When you eat their short grain organic white rice, you are tasting pure, unadulterated agriculture. It is undeniably expensive, sometimes reaching up to 80 pence or a pound per serving, making it a luxury choice rather than a bulk family staple. But if you are feeding a toddler or a young child whose developing brain is hypersensitive to heavy metal exposure, spending that extra money on a pristine, verified source is an entirely logical investment. Finally, the most practical. Cost-effective good brand on the shelf is actually plain, single-ingredient bulk white rice from a named origin, bought from trusted whole food cooperatives or supermarkets like Marks & Spencer. When you buy M&S Select Farms or specialized single-ingredient bulk packs that explicitly name a lower-risk country like Italy or Spain on the label, you are winning. This rice has no seasoning packets, no processing chemicals, and no hidden sodium. It is just one ingredient: rice. By choosing a plain white grain from a named European or California origin, you are naturally dodging the arsenic-rich brand of brown rice while avoiding the toxic commodity streams of the budget section. It is cheap, clean, and when cooked using the correct method we are about to discuss, it represents the absolute safest and most honest way to put food on your table without breaking the bank. Right, let's get down to brass tacks. You now know exactly how the industry operates, but I am not leaving you hanging. Here are the 5 definitive rules you need to screenshot right now, so you can walk into Tesco or Sainsbury's and buy with absolute confidence. Rule 1. Buy rice exclusively by its named geographical origin. If the back of the packet says nothing more than packed in the UK or has a vague non-UK agriculture stamp, put it right back on the shelf. You want to look for explicit declarations like grown in California on sushi rice or Thai home Mali on jasmine rice. Named regional tracking is your absolute best proxy for low arsenic environments. Rule 2. Actively switch from the traditional absorption method to the parboiling with absorption technique. This is the groundbreaking method optimized by scientists at the University of Sheffield. You rinse your grain, drop it into boiling water at a ratio of 4 parts water to 1 part rice, let it boil aggressively for exactly 5 minutes, and then drain that water completely down the sink, taking the heavy metals with it. Then, refresh the pot with fresh boiled water at a 2-to-1 ratio, pop the lid on, and let it simmer until absorbed. This cuts the toxic load by up to 74% for white rice without hollowing out the mineral nutrients like the standard pasta method does. Hindustan Times Isho 1 Rule 3. Treat the phrase organic whole grain brown rice with extreme skepticism on the shelf. Remember the brown rice surprise. Organic regulations do nothing to stop roots from acting like heavy metal sponges, and the intact bran shell holds the vast majority of the arsenic. If you want brown rice, it must be from a verified low-contaminant region like California. Otherwise, stick to clean white varieties. Rule 4. Diversify your dinner plate away from the single grain trap. Rice shouldn't be the baseline of every meal your family consumes. Introduce grains like pearled barley, quinoa, or British-grown oats into your weekly rotation. By swapping out 2 or 3 rice meals a week, you naturally dilute your long-term cumulative exposure to heavy metals by half. Rule 5. Treat suspiciously cheap aromatic rice as an automatic red flag for food fraud. Genuine, low-arsenic Basmati from the Himalayas requires long aging and immense care. If you spot a massive bag in a budget tier at an incredibly low price, it has almost certainly been cut with lower-grade, anonymous long-grain filler. Stick to established, high-repute world food brands that actively police their supply paths. To sum it all up, the mainstream consumer product industry is structurally built on opacity, hiding heavy metal realities and rampant global grain cutting behind idyllic images of farming fields. But you don't have to be a helpless victim to corporate supply margins or marketing tricks anymore. By shifting your mindset from buying a random product name to tracking the precise geographical source and altering how you boil it, you instantly reclaim total control over what enters your body. Cheers for staying with me all the way through this investigation. If you found this useful, please hit the share button and send it to that one mate who lives off microwave pouches or cooks rice for their kids every single evening. They genuinely need to see this. Drop a comment below right now and let me know, Which specific brand of rice is